The title of this is After the Disruption, Crisis or Opportunity. And we've all been involved with the most unbelievable experience over the past 45 to 46 days. The entire world has been affected by the same experience. And this presentation, this webinar, is going to give you an opportunity to look at how you, as either a business person or a sales director, look at your business. So New Year's Eve, 2019, December the 31st, the World Health Organization country office in China receives a report of a pneumonia of unknown cause. Around the world, billions are welcoming in a new decade, and futurists and predictors are busily writing articles about what the new decade will have ahead for us all. Some numerologists are waxing on about it being a year of vision and accomplishment, and it's going to be the perfect year because of numbers. Political commentators are worrying themselves silly over the forthcoming US election, and in the UK, Brexit is still on the agenda. Greta Thunberg is continuing to push for her greater climate change awareness, and Prince Harry is getting ready to live in LA and be the champion for the woke generation. Chinese horoscopes have called it the year of the rat, and it's a year of vast, productive, and ingenious energy, according to their predictions. And horoscopes, futurists, authors, and commentators are all making predictions for the coming year, ranging from the negativity of political disaster towards the positivity of future prosperity. But no one would have believed nor predicted that the global pandemic was coming, or foresaw that the entire world will be affected by the same problem. Few even considered the possibility on that New Year's Eve that the disruption was already on its way. And yet, across the world, people were already bringing the disease and the virus around the planet. Bill Gates was right in saying that there was going to be a viral pandemic that was going to come out of the wet markets in China. But despite his prediction that a virus was coming and it's going to be the next global catastrophe, he was wrong in terms of the scale of the death toll, which thank God hasn't come to pass. But the most incredible thing for me is how we were so underprepared. Because in that New Year's Eve in 2019, really none of us expected anything to happen. Even when in January and February, this was starting to become a thing, we were sitting there quietly, minding our own business. And I can remember even the week before lockdown thinking this isn't going to be as serious as it is. However, there is a reason. And the reason that this sort of thing happens to us is a curious mind trick that our minds play on us called the optimism bias. And so the optimism bias makes us believe that the disasters that befall other people will not happen to us. It's what for thousands of years have allowed warriors, soldiers, and the like to fight on a battlefield. The notion that the bullet will not hit me is entirely down to optimism bias. I think it's what allows people to sign up for the army, to march to the battlefield, and I think it's also why smokers continue to smoke, because we believe that we're more likely to experience a good outcome compared to a bad outcome. For example, extreme sport enthusiasts or people that stand on the top of tall buildings and take selfies never think that they're going to be the one that falls off. So the world partied on through the night like passengers on the Titanic heading towards the iceberg. 4 months later, millions infected, hundreds of thousands have died, and the world has changed. Because make no mistake, this has fundamentally changed the world. So for the first time, every single person on the planet was united against a common foe. We have to learn about future onslaughts and lest we have another disruption. Now, this is all obvious, and so many of you that have listened to me in the past and know that I write about personal development and offer business advice. So why have I forayed into discussing the COVID-19 pandemic? And specifically, why am I talking about something called optimism bias? Now, actually, this is about business and sales. It's not actually about the virus, but it is about how the disruption has affected the world and how it's affected our business. You've got to think about your mindset. Is it going to be a crisis? And I'm not just talking about now in the in the lockdown. I'm talking about beyond the lockdown. I'm talking about over the next 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 2 years. What is this? Is this a crisis? Is this a disaster? Or is this an opportunity to develop and grow your business to be more successful and more professional and more productive than ever before? Because how you react, or how you have reacted, and how you act going forward will define the rest of your life. Where is your mindset going to be? Will you still think as they did BC? Or will you think AD? Will your mindset be before the coronavirus? Or will it be after the disruption? Because there is a sense that what was so very important BC is less so AD. The concerns of celebrity, sporting achievements, soap operas, gossip amongst the community, office politics, and even the pursuit of profit before all else now seems a bit facile and shallow. We seem to have a new appreciation for health workers, for teachers, for delivery drivers, for people that have helped our society and our community work. This was never the case beforehand. I can remember we got a delivery from a food delivery, and we were so thankful and appreciative that they'd done that for us to help us. Whereas we'd just normally just go, thank you, and be much more dismissive. And we've seen how easy it is for an organism that cannot be seen by the human eye to bring all of humanity to a complete stop. So here we are, the people that have made it through. And believe me, as bad as it's been, and it has been terrible, and for some people it's been really tragic, it pales into insignificance to how bad it could have been if the virus was more virulent in terms of a higher percentage of people being affected in a very serious way. So how does this relate to business? How does it relate to the fact that we all rely on each other, that communities come first? How does that make a difference? Here we are with a situation where you believe that your business is successful, is going to be successful as long as you do the right things. In other words, you open up your doors and away you go. You go into your business, you create your plan, and off you go. And yet, this optimism bias is extremely dangerous for businesses. In fact, it can destroy a business. But before we do that, let's look at what optimism bias can do for the world and how it can make a difference. For example, did Albert Einstein have optimism bias when he decided to create the world's most famous equation? Did Steve Jobs have optimism bias when he created the iPhone? Did Michelangelo have optimism bias when he painted the Sistine Chapel, even though he didn't want to do it? And closer to home, although it feels like a very long time ago, did Ben Stokes have optimism bias when he faced that last over in the Cricket World Cup final? It's nice to think that perfect things will happen to us all the time. Having a positive attitude will drive things, positive things towards you, will drive you to have more success. And that's really important. But the danger of optimism bias, the danger of positivity and self-belief is that we think that that's all we need. Because just because you make it and think it doesn't mean it's going to succeed. So, for example, when you created your business plan and put your, some of you saying that you didn't create a business plan, that you didn't build your plan before you started. All right, so I'll just backtrack and we'll go back to when you set up your sales plan, because you said, and so this is the point. This is the proof that optimism bias exists. The idea that you can successfully run a business without a sales plan or business plan is such an example. Now, I regularly come across businesses that are pretty successful and they never had a sales plan or a business plan. They opened their doors and went, yep, let's get cracking. And depending on the size of the business, depends on the severity of the damage that this can do. But the fact is that statistic evidence shows that more businesses succeed and are more successful and more profitable when they have a business plan and an accompanying sales plan. And I'm a huge fan of optimism bias But if you think that all you've got to do is open your doors and get cracking without planning, without preparing, without making sure that you can do everything you want to do, then it can be very, very dangerous, because it's the optimism bias, or the excessive optimism bias, that causes entrepreneurs to mistakenly believe that not having a sales plan or a business plan will be okay, that it will not negatively affect their business. It's just the same as a soldier on a battlefield charging a machine gun position. Every now and again, a soldier gets through, but hundreds are mown down. And the importance of business planning and the importance of sales planning cannot be overestimated. Now, what's the point of me talking to you about sales plan and business plan, and after the disruption, when here we are in it? And this is when I'm going to talk to you about the real opportunity and the real point of this entire talk. And the point is RESTARTUP. Every business should be thinking to themselves, am I going to have the same amount of business after the disruption that I had beforehand? Because irrespective of your business's current state or position at the moment, particularly as we're in the middle of this pandemic, I want you to look at your business again in light of the changed circumstances. Because every business now should be looking at their business as if it was a startup again. Because actually, in many respects, apart from the fact that some of us have been sort of dormant or working on reduced hours for the past few weeks, we are a startup because we're going into the unknown a bit. So let's use the same procedures that you would do as if this was a startup, and think lean. You should read Lean Startup by Eric Ries, which is a fantastic book about how you set up and start up a business in a very lean and effective manner. And my advice is to consider that you treat your business as a startup, or as I like to call it, a restartup. This means rewriting your sales plan, rewriting your business plan, looking at your mission statement again, and resetting your KPIs to ensure that you're ready and able to take advantage of this real opportunity that the pandemic has sent us. Because even if we're going to be released from lockdown next week or the week after, or whenever it is, we're still going to have the time to look at things about our business in a way that we never had that opportunity before. So this is a process that we use in my Business Buccaneers coaching program to help business look at how they build a business plan, or more importantly, how they build a sales plan. Because even if you're a sales manager or a sales director for a business, having the opportunity to look at your targets and everything else that I'm going to take you through now is really going to make things a lot easier. And this article and all of these information that's on the screen now is actually on my website, cellularatitude.co.uk, in the Born to Sell blog, which goes about it in great detail. But I want to take you through this process and explain how and why this works. So this is what we ask everyone in our program to do, everyone in the RESTARTUP program to do, because we think it makes a big difference into how a business can work. So part one, these are your assumptions. And these assumptions you've got to answer honestly for yourself. So what are your target markets? Do you have different target markets for different products and service? And in this new time, in this new era after the disruption, will your customers be different? So what do your ideal customers and clients look like? Because there's a little saying, if you do what you've always done, you'll get what you've always got. However, because of this disruption, because there's going to be social distancing and people's attitudes have changed, what you've always done will not be what you'll always get. So who are they? Have your customers changed since the COVID-19 pandemic? Now, the more detail you put into what your customer looks like and what they do and how they behave, then the easier it will be to find them. So list out different types of customers and think about who would use your service and what benefits they'll get from using you. Remember, you must think like a startup. Number three, where do you find your customers? And this is so important, because where will you find them? What routes to market are you using? What new routes to market could you try? Do you think that buying methods will change because of the lockdown and social distancing? You need to make changes to your thought processes now. Number 4, what makes your customers buy your products? Why do they buy from your company? Why do they buy your product or service? And have you ever asked your customers these really important questions? Because if you're not asking them why they're buying from you, if you don't understand from their point of view why they buy from you, how do you know that you're right in your assumptions? Ask your customers. This is the classic lean startup process where you test your customers to find out why they're buying from you, what they like about what you do, what they like about your service, because it moves us on to part 5, which is, can you describe the benefits of your solution and the benefits of using you simply and easily? Because as Albert Einstein would say, if you cannot explain it to a 6-year-old, then you don't understand it well enough yourself. So can you explain what you do and why your customers buy from you and what they get from using you? Because if you cannot do that, your business will struggle. Number 6, do you understand your sales costs, your margins and profits? You need to list a summary of your key overheads, the cost of sales and profit expectations. How much do you need to break even? Because your fixed cost, your variable cost, and what income you need every month as a business and as people to survive and to live to your ideal base standards are really important. Because if you don't know how much you need to survive, then it's going to be very difficult to think about how far you want to take it beyond then. So the point 7, which is how much gross profit is required to break even, if you've worked out your break even, and then you know your gross profit to break even, and by break even, that is to make sure you've got the income you need to live on. I think a lot of people, and Catherine made a comment just now about have been working on this in the lockdown, and it really does make a big difference. It's certainly something we've worked on in a big way. Because of this, if you know what your gross profit is required, then you're going to be able to look at how much sales activity you need to do to achieve that break even. Because this is the key point in all businesses, because all businesses are reliant on sales. How much sales activity is required to break even and achieve the desired profitability? And this is where you start working out what I like to call the math of sales. And I cover it in detail in my online sales training program and actually talk about it in other articles that I've written on my website. Suffice to say, you need to understand something called key performance indicators, which I'm going to be referring to as KPIs. Now, some of you may have come across this before, and some of you may not have come across this before. But the key performance indicator is how you record the sales activity that you do within your business. That could be phone calls that you make, letters that you send out, visits that you make, emails that you send, etc. By tracking your KPIs, by tracking your activity, it allows you to make sure that you understand what works and what doesn't work within your business. And also allows you to work out how much activity you need to do in order to be successful. So it's one of the key things that we do in our Buccaneer team coaching program. It's how we teach you to build your sales strategy and what is going to be the right thing for you to do to make your business succeed. And it's all the things like who you speak to, what you say, and how often you say it. And they're the building blocks of all businesses, the KPIs. So that's part 1. So let's move on to the next part, the template. You need to think about, number 1, the KPIs. Now, I mentioned it before in a little bit of detail, but I just want to go into a bit more depth here because it's so important. So KPIs are the way that you track what you do. And any business, if it hasn't got KPIs, is honestly floundering and wasting their time and being ineffective to how effective they could be if they monitored their activities. And it is a bit difficult because it's making yourself accountable to yourself and to your targets. And humans are funny creatures. We don't like to be accountable. We don't like to look at ourselves under a glaring light and admit our own issues. So these are the sort of KPIs you want to be thinking about. Who you're contacting, what methods you're using, what you'll say, how many messages you're saying a day, and how often to each prospect, the results of those messages, and then the outcomes. So there's many variables to consider. And many salespeople, and this is if you're a sales director, if you've been a sales manager before, you'll know what I'm talking about. Many salespeople think that KPIs are there for the managers to beat them over the head with a stick. But the truth is that all salespeople, and especially managers and business owners, really need to understand their own metrics. Now, I'm very experienced in this, and I can look at a set of KPIs without knowing the people and tell from it the problem that each salesperson is having in their job, down to the point of probably what they're doing wrong and how to fix it. So if I see someone that's got lots of dials or calls, but very low talk time, in other words, they don't spend a lot of time on average with each phone call, then I know that that person's probably not asking enough open questions to engage the client. If somebody's got a long time on the phone, but very low end sales, then they're probably not closing the deal well enough. And if somebody has got low activity, low engagement, low time and low results, then they're just not trying hard enough, and they're probably suffering from the old sales fear that people can have, because they don't understand that it's asking questions that is the key to sales success. So that's true that the KPIs can help guide your business if the right KPIs are being monitored, and often the wrong KPIs are being monitored. And I've lost count of the times that I've gone to a business, sat down with them and changed their KPIs because they've made it too complicated or they're looking at the wrong things. I always use the KISS principle, which is keep it simple, sweetheart, and change them slowly. It's about educating the sales team, about teaching them to understand their own metrics so they become self-motivated. Because if the metrics don't matter to you, if you don't care about your KPIs, then you won't do it. And if you can understand the reasons and the consequences for these things, then it will make a big difference. And remember what Einstein said: if you can't explain it to a 6-year-old, then you don't understand it, they won't understand it, and everything that goes with it. Let's move on to part 2 of this, which is market prediction for growth and shrinkage in the coming year. And this is going to be really difficult, because what do we think is going to happen? It's very difficult for established businesses today to think about what's going to happen in the next year. It's even more so for a startup. But actually, as we're all startups again, we can look at this as a basis of actually being really responsive and reactive to how this changes. We don't know how it's going to change. So what we should be doing is preparing 3 models. Model 1, shrinkage. Model 2, no real change. And model 3, growth. What will we do if it shrinks? What increased activities will we make? What will we do if it stays the same? And how will we cope if our business grows? Because growing a business is just as difficult as a business that shrinks. Think about those activities and think about what different activities you can do. The more you can create in sort of simulation, this is what I would do if this happens, then the more chance you're going to have your business successful going forward. This is a really important aspect of this RESTARTUP, preparing for different scenarios. Now, you could say to yourself, why would I predict for 3 different or 4 different scenarios if only one of them is going to happen? Aren't those other predictions a waste of time? Believe me, this is the most important aspect. You have to create and plan for different eventualities. The old saying is, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail, has never been truer than at this moment in time, because we are in such an unstable and uncertain future. Number 3 is the financial budget, which is costs to be calculated, running costs, purchasing costs, sales costs, etc. And this should actually be quite simple to calculate if you've got an existing business and you know what your costs are. It's more guesswork for a newer business, but even as an existing business, if you're looking at new outcomes or new methods of attracting new business, then that's going to be something to look at. We're very sales focused at Cellular Attitude, and I think all businesses should be. So we really look at marketing costs and we make sure that we cover our professional fees and everything else, because if you don't look at your costs of marketing and you don't consider them, then you are going to have a problem. It really is about sales now in the next year. The companies that sell the best, that can engage customers the best, that can talk to people the best, are going to be the most successful. And number 4 is people. And by that, we mean who is going to do what in your business, in the creation of the sales plan. So if you're a single person business, obviously it's going to be you. But if you have other people in your business that can help you, make sure you can trust them, because you're going to have to check their work anyway. And you don't want to waste your time checking people's work if it's not going to be any good. Right, so let's just move on to the next point, which is the sales plan. So we're going to start putting it together now, and this is the key element of the sales plan. Everything we've done to this point has been preparation so that we can make this document. So part 1, the 3 questions. And the 3 questions are this: what is your company's USP? So what is your unique selling proposition? What do you do, in other words? Number 2, what are the principles that you offer that separate you from the competition? Why should they use you and not the competition? And there's many different reasons for this, but this is your why. And number 3, what's your brand message? Is it simple and easy to understand? Because if it's complicated, then it's going to be something that's going to be very difficult for people to understand. You have to think about that. The next part, question 2, is what's your mission statement? Now, a lot of people don't have mission statements. They think it's only for big companies to have mission statements, or they think that a mission statement has to be something that's really complicated, convoluted, and lengthy. A mission statement can be 4 words. So one of the world's biggest companies is McDonald's, and it has the following mission statement: quality, convenience, value, and service. Not quality, convenience, value, service, and burgers, or quality, value, service, convenience, and cheap, but literally quality, convenience, value, and service. Because actually, when you think about it, at McDonald's, the standard quality is the same around the world. Is it convenient? Well, everywhere you look, there is one when you need one. Do they give you a service? Well, for McDonald's, you'd say that they're pretty hot on giving the right service. And does it give you value? And that's a different point if you think it's good food or whatever. But a lot of people would say it does give value, and it is the same across the world. So think about what your mission statement is. What is it? And it's not for you to be saying, this is my mission statement for customers. The mission statement is for you to say about yourself and your business. What do we stand for? Now, number 3 is your company objectives. So again, a lot of businesses I've come across and I've worked with I've said to them, what's your objectives? And they'll go, to make a lot of money, or, very, very, very woolly and undefined objectives. These goals that you need, these objectives are really important. So here's the very simple 5 questions to ask. And as I said, all of this is available in the article that's on my website. Question number 1, where do you want the company to be in 12 months' time? Number 2, how many new customers do you want to bring in? Number 3, have you got clear pricing and an understanding of how you're going to achieve that revenue? Number 4, will there be any major marketing campaigns this year? What are we going to do to get the customers in? And number 5, what events will you do to generate sales and interest? And by events, that doesn't mean you have to be talking about external events or going to exhibitions and the like, but it could be we're going to be doing a marketing campaign, or we're going to do a leaflet drop, or we're going to do almost going to see customers door to door. Whatever that is, you need to be looking at those objectives and listing them out. Number 4 are smart financial goals. And by these are going to be smart goals. So that means they're going to be specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and timed. And again, the article goes into this in great detail, but it's all about what you want to achieve financially for your business. How much do you want to achieve? How many customers? How those sales are going to be managed, measured, and how are you getting in? What time period is it going to be? So number 5 in your sales plan is going to be identifying customers. And this is existing and potential customers. So who are your existing customers? And then what sort of customers do you want to go after? A lot of companies don't plan and think about their customer base. They just say, well, I just want more customers. Or, I'd be interested in meeting any new customers. Well, the truth is you don't want any old customer. You want specific customers. You want customers that are going to be relevant to your businesses. And so it's very important to have SMART goals when you think about the right sort of people for your customers, for your finances, for your objectives. We've looked at how we identify our customers. And one last thing I'll say about identifying customers is this. Are you going to go after low-hanging fruit? Are you going to go after bigger customers? And what routes to market are you going to use? Are you going to be using LinkedIn? Are you going to be using online? Are you going to be picking the phone up to ring people? Because it's possible, if you're used to making calls to offices, that if you ring an office phone number, they're not going to be in. Because A, they could be working from home. They're talking about structured and working hours that are going to be structured according to people's ability to do a social distancing. So how we contact customers is going to be really very important, which brings me nicely onto sales strategy and selling tactics. So strategy is the overall plan, and a tactic are things within the plan that will work. So you'll have one main strategy and many tactics within. So I'm not going to go into a great deal because that could be a whole webinar by itself. And if there's interest, I'll maybe do another webinar about sales strategy and selling tactics. Basic concepts. How many customers am I going to contact every day? Am I going to make 10 contacts, 20, 100? How much of my time is going to be contacting customers? And in that, obviously, what methods am I going to use to contact the customers? Am I going to be telephoning them, emailing them, LinkedIn, networking, whatever the references are? How will you contact them? How many leads do you have as a target to be generated? Because just making the phone calls isn't enough. You need to say, right, is this person interested? Are they a lead? Then you need to look at what are your activity targets and what are your conversion rates. And this is the KPIs that really do need monitoring. And then we've got to look at reports, because you need to be looking at a monthly report. How did I do last month? Possibly weekly, depending on, certainly in the early stages, you might want to see what your weeklies are. But then look at your quarter. And do you have reports from last year that allow you to cross-reference how much you've done this year? I'll tell you something that's interesting. So I have quite a few clients that I work with in my Buccaneer coaching program. And I often will sit down with them and say, right, so what did you do in the first quarter of last year for sales? And I cannot tell you how many companies go, let me just look that up. They don't know on top of their head, or they don't know their average per month. So what your figures are, how many customers you dealt with, how many sales did you do each month, how many people did you do quotes for? You must know what you did. Otherwise, how can you tell if what you're doing is doing better or worse? It's like trying to say, I'm going to lose weight and never weighing yourself. So hopefully that helps. Then you look onto the financial budget, which again is cost of sales, cost of production and services expenses, and your cash flow and other forecasts. And if you've not had experience of doing cash flows, you really, really should, because a cash flow is going to allow you to identify the difference between profit and turnover, because they say turnover is vanity and profit is sanity, is the old phrase, but it's cash flow, which is the difference between a business being successful or not. And I'll talk about this because there was a business that had dreadful profit results. Shocking. I mean, years and years it went on losing money hand over fist and fortunes. Its turnover wasn't that great, but it had good cash flow because it always kept that investment money rolling in. And that company suddenly turned around from losing about $50 million a week to becoming one of the biggest companies in the world. And I'm talking about Amazon. So Amazon's first years were horrendous. And yet, because they had managed their cash flow, because they'd used process, they got the money in to keep the business rolling, and they had a plan, they were able to continue and become the massive success that they are today. And one of the things about financial budget that is worth talking about here and again, this is really slightly off track, but they have just announced yet another lender on the bounce back loan program. And you really want to look at your cash flow and see what opportunities are available to you from governments and grants and things like that to help your business get through if you are planning the process in the right way. And then the last part on this, before I ask to see if there's any more questions, is number 8, which is your action plan. And that is going to be who does what in the business, what are your KPIs, and what are you tracking? Are you tracking your new customers, your new leads, your ranking in Google, for example, weekly, monthly, quarterly? This is the first part of what I call the 10 steps. Now, the 10 steps are the key to all of this. This is the 10 steps to RESTARTUP. So, part 1, treat your business as a RESTARTUP. Look at it again with a new vision. If this was a startup, how would I do it? What would I be looking to do? You've got evidence and information about what your business was like before, but think about it as a startup. If this was a startup, what would I expect? How would I do things? And how would I do things differently? Part 2, rewrite your sales plan, specifically thinking about the new trading conditions. Think about sales plan if things are going well, a sales plan, like an emergency sales plan. So I'm not getting the results I expected in the first month. This is my almost like disaster sales plan. And then the sales plan for things if things are going well and you think, okay, I want to invest more into it. Number 3 is rewrite your business plan. And of course, sales plan is only part of a business plan. This is your finances, your cash flow, everything. Review your mission statement. Make sure that it is relevant to not only your business, but also to where you want your business to go. And that leads us into part 5, which is reviewing your financial goals. Because people's goals, in some respects, have changed. Some people wanted huge money and now just want a different sort of lifestyle business. There's plenty of people that I've been speaking to who have valued this time of being with people and with their families, so much so that they're going to reduce the amount of time they spend in their business. I'm going to just let it simple a question. Catherine said, I've been looking at branding and that's what they've been doing as well. Yep, brilliant. I'm pleased you're enjoying it, Catherine. Number 6, reset your KPIs and follow them. Whatever you've done in the past may not work anymore. So let's relook at it, look at it from a different point of view and say, okay, what do I want to do? How am I going to meet my customers? I think the KPIs are going to be really very important, and how we approach customers as well. I think a lot of the way that we did business in the past is going to change, not only in how we find the customers, but how we deliver. And I think that's the exciting thing about what's happened, because actually everything is up for grabs. And so if you're a company or an organization that can be adaptive, then you're going to be able to succeed. And if you're going to think that everything's going to be like it was, you are possibly heading towards some rocky waters. Is that troubled waters? I'm not quite sure. Okay, number 7, increase your sales skills. Now, I'm a sales trainer, obviously, and I've written a lot of articles about how to sell, and I've written a personal development book about why people behave the way they behave. So I would say I'm an informed person on this aspect. And we do have an online sales training program, which would help. But you can actually just go and put free sales training into Google and get quite a lot of information that can be very helpful to you as a person. So whether or not you use something as brilliant as mine, or you decide you just want to look at some free options, and there's plenty of free stuff on the internet, irrespective, invest in yourself to become better at selling. And that means asking more questions, understanding the customer, listening to what they've got to say, acknowledging and asking more questions. There's a whole process of sales, but make yourself better at selling. And it doesn't matter what you do, whether you're an accountant, a photographer, doesn't matter. Become a salesperson, because you are a salesperson if you have a business. And if you're a sales manager, you've got to make sure you understand it better. If you're a sales director, you need to be really the best in your business at selling, so you can help increase the standards of your team. I cannot emphasize that enough. And number 8, introduce improved productivity measures. And that means becoming better at time management. I wonder how many people in this lockdown period have, sort of taken their foot off the gas, have laid back and have gone, oh, there's things I can do, and do you know what, I'll do that tomorrow, or they just let things slide. I'm passionate about productivity, and I'm passionate about becoming more effective the whole time. And I think this is because when I was a child, I was very, very unproductive, very disorganized, very haphazard with everything that I did. And so since then, I've always tried to improve my productivity to the point where I would say that I'm extraordinarily productive considering the amount of hours in the day. Now, that's because I use techniques such as my time tracker and productivity pads, and I obviously do a lot of time management. So a little reward for you all. This was what I was going to talk about. Since it's my birthday, I'm giving out the presents. I'm going to give you all access to my Beyond Time Management online time management training program. You're going to get that for free. And you're also all going to get in the post from me, and Bianca will liaise with you. That's the people that have attended Bianca. You'll all get my time tracker and time management productivity system pads, which I sell on the online for about £12, but you're going to get them for free from me in the next few days in the post as a thank you for attending. Really very effective, and I hope you enjoy them. So 2 more steps to go. Any questions at this point before I move on to the next section?
I'd actually just like to add in something there. Seeing as we're going to be providing the pads, I think it would be useful if either we make a video or if we regroup another time so that you can really show them how to use those pads, because they are phenomenal. And when you know how to use them and implement them properly in your daily life, they become an extremely effective tool. And rather than them just being set aside or not used in the proper manner, I think it would be effective for everyone if we did that.
Okay, well, we'll have a look at that. And certainly I'll put something out. We'll do something on that. I think we've got something on the website about how to use them, but I'll have a look at that. Okay. Oh, we have a question, or is it a comment? Great idea.
That's John saying great idea.
Bad. Right. Okay. On we go. Now, part 2, number 9, track your activity. So look at your KPIs, customer feedback, and do it religiously. Speak to your customers. I don't know why people do this, but if you're a salesperson or you own a business, ring your customer, say, how do you find working with me? What do you like about what I do? And also, can I ask you, what would you like me to do differently? Is there anything that I do that you don't necessarily appreciate, that you would like me to change? Why not talk to the customers that work with you to find out if they like working with you and what you can do differently? Because these people must like you. They bought from you. So listen to their advice, listen to their feedback, and make changes, because that's how you become more effective. And this is very much a thing that the lean startup talks about, which is about listening to customer feedback and making changes to make your business, your approach, and what you do customer relevant, as opposed to what you think it's going to be. There's so many stories of companies that start off with a great idea and listen to customers and become something completely different because they've listened to their customers, as opposed to going from there. Now, when we have a program called the Buccaneer Team, which is my business coaching program, and that entire program came out because I had people saying to me, Adam, could you do a small business coaching program that would help us sell and get more business in. And that's how that program came out, because I get feedback and listen to customers and make sure I've got products that are right for them, as opposed to me just saying, right, in my mind, I've got this idea. And then use networks properly. So if you're in a networking organization like BNI, which is the best one that I've come across, use that properly. And if you're not into networking, you should be. Whatever that network is, use things like LinkedIn effectively. Look at different types of networking organizations that are the best way and most efficient way of growing your business. And I think this era coming ahead is going to be more about networking and in-person interaction than ever before. I think that's going to be a big, big thing. And then 2 bonuses. 1, don't just talk about making changes and restart up, do it. People will talk, but not do. And then bonus number 2, when you've done it, do it again and again and keep on doing it, because that is the key to being successful. And at that point, I'm going to stop sharing. So I hope that that's been of use. I don't know if anyone's got any questions that they want to ask. Good. Any feedback? Anyone would like to ask any questions while we're on here?
Yeah, this was very, very excellent and very useful. Thank you very much. It's always good to go back over all of this, no matter how many times you may have done it before. It reminds you of all those little things you may have forgotten or just missed, and just helps you keep you on that track.
Good. Well, I'm pleased you've all enjoyed it. Thank you, Catherine. No problem. I'm going to be recording it and put it on YouTube, and hope you all enjoy it. Thank you all for listening. If you want to get in touch, you can. And the other thing is, if you are interested in my book, I am doing signed copies. Oh, hold on. Signed copies if you're interested. That's on the website. But listen, thank you so much, all of you, for listening. Be safe out there. Enjoy. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Alan.
Thanks, guys.
Really useful. Thank you.
I'm so pleased you enjoyed it.